Hello guys, welcome back to the course. In this video, we are going to learn step by step on how to detect potential outliers in our dataset. So for those of you who might be wondering what is potential outlier, so basically potential outlier is a value that is too extreme. It can be too high or too low. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to display the first 5 rows of our dataset. So I'm going to type in data.head like this, and I'm going to hit compile. As you guys can see, these are the first 5 rows of our dataset. So we're going to detect potential outliers in these two columns, count and rate. So basically we're going to check if there is any potential outliers in count and rate column. Alright, so now I'm going to add another block of code, and we are going to create a list. So I'm going to name the list to be columns to check. Alright, so it's going to be count. So I'm going to copy and paste the name of the column. So this is like the first column that we're going to check, and the second column is rate. So I'm just going to copy and paste the name of that column. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to compile it, and I'm going to add another block of code. So just to let you know, we are going to use z-score method. So this is the formula that we're going to use, right? So as you guys can see, we have z equals to, so in this case x represents the observed value, and this symbol represents mean of the sample, and you also have like this symbol on the bottom. It represents the standard deviations of the sample. Alright, so we're going to use these equations. Then the next thing that we're going to do is to create a variable for outlier threshold. So I'm going to create that variable here, outlier threshold, and I'm going to assign a value to this variable. It's going to be 3, and you might be wondering, what does it mean? Let me explain. So when you set the outlier threshold to be equals to 3, so it basically means that the data points with z-scores greater than 3 or less than 3 will be considered as potential outliers. Alright, so now I'm going to hit compile, and the next thing that we are going to do is to detect any potential outliers by using z-scores, right? So we're going to utilize this formula. Okay, so we are going to detect potential outliers for 2 different columns. The first one is count, and the second one is rate. Okay, so we're going to do it separately. Alright, so for now we're going to detect potential outliers for count column, right? Okay, so now I'm going to create a variable called count z-scores, and in this case we are going to use numpy, because we will need to use absolute value. Right, so don't forget to import numpy. So I'm going to type in import numpy as np like this, and let's hit recompile. Okay, so now I'm going to type in something like this, np.abs. So abs stands for absolute value, and we're going to have data like this, and inside this bracket we are going to have count, because we want to access values from this column, right? And we're going to subtract that by data count.mean. And you might be wondering why. Let me explain. So if you go back to this page, as you guys can see, this is the formula that we're using. So this symbol represents the mean of the sample data, right? That's the reason why we have mean here. And don't forget, we are also going to divide this by data count dot std, or standard deviations. If you might be wondering why, as you guys can see, the symbol on the bottom here represents the standard deviations of the sample data, right? That's the reason why we have .std here. Okay, so now we are going to create another variable called count outlier mass. So basically we are going to check if there is any value from this column count that is above the outlier threshold, which is 3 in this case. So we're going to copy this variable greater than outlier threshold, which is 3. Alright, And down here, I'm going to create another variable. So it's going to be potential count outliers. And it's going to be equals to data. And inside this bracket, we're just going to copy and paste this, right? And you might be wondering, what does this line of code do? Okay, so let me explain. So basically, we are creating a new data frame called potential count outliers that contains the rows from the original dataset, where the count outlier mask is true, right? So basically, we are just selecting and storing the rows of data that meet the conditions specified in count outlier mask, right? So if this condition is met, count z-score is greater than outlier threshold, then the value is going to be stored on this new data frame. Okay, so down here we are going to print. So we're going to have potential count outliers, right? And don't forget to print the variable, alright? So I'm just going to copy and paste this variable and I'm going to put it inside this parenthesis and I'm going to hit compile. Okay, here we go guys. As you guys can see, this is the output that we got. So these are the potential outliers and count column, right? So when you're analyzing this data, when you're analyzing this column, make sure that you are fully aware of these potential outliers, which can impact the outcome of your analysis, right? Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing for rate column, right? So I'm just going to add another block of code, and this time we're going to detect the potential outlier for rate, which is this column, right? Detecting potential outliers for rate. Okay, so we are going to do the same exact thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste this line of code. We're just going to add few modifications to these codes, right? So obviously we'll need to replace count with rate. We're going to replace count with rate, right? But the formula is going to be the same exact thing. So we're still going to use these equations, right? So you subtract data rate by data rate dot mean, which is the mean of the sample data, and you're going to divide them by the standard deviations. So it's the same exact thing. We're just going to replace count with rate in this case. Okay, so we're also going to replace this with rate. And for the outlier threshold, we are still using the same variable that we created up here, right? So outlier threshold equals to 3. We're still using the same variable. Okay, so I'm going to change this to rate. Also the same for this one. Okay, so now I'm going to hit compile. Okay, as you guys can see, this is the output that we got. So these are the potential outliers for rate column, right? So when you're analyzing this column, make sure that you are fully aware of these potential outliers because they can impact the outcome of your analysis. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. That's all you need to know about the potential outliers. Just make sure that you are fully aware of these potential outliers when you are conducting biostatistic analysis. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.